The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Pacers bounce back, beat the Celtics, win the season series.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast.
Wowie, what a response from the Pacers, who go into game 2 in Boston. You know what I say? Hard to beat a team twice in a row in these mini-series. Pacers, once again, prove how difficult that can be. They beat the Celtics by 9. Tyrese Haliburton was special. The Pacers defense, when the game got tight, was awesome. The Pacers' force and physicality was where it needed to be. The recent lottery pick stepped up in a big way. All sorts of stuff that the Pacers need to see to beat Boston for the second time this season. If somehow those teams end up with the same record, the Pacers get the better seed. Big win for the Pacers for their record, for proving of concept of how well they've been playing recently. A lot of stuff that's been going well continued in this game. But the leading thing to me on the Pacers getting this done was their star, being the best player on the floor. Sounds simple, right? And I got a lot of comments about this, about where was this during the OKC game? And I will get to why I think that's a silly thing to say, but Tyrese Haliburton was special. He was awesome. 31 points for Tyrese Haliburton. That tied Jaylen Brown to lead all scorers. It took 2 more shot attempts for Jaylen Brown to get his 31 than Tyrese Haliburton. So advantage Haliburton there. Haliburton did it with no assists and no fouls. 31 points, 6 boards, 7 assists, 1 steal, no turnovers, no fouls. Incredible game, right? Dominant performance. When he had the ball, full control. The Celtics tried some not very aggressive coverages against him, and every time he could get a big into a screen, he attacked. They were trying to get Al Horford into play. They would try to get Luke Cornett into the play. Any defender he felt like he could get by, they would try to get there, and he attacked the rim. And that's not always going to be the best strategy for a good Tyrese Haliburton game. In fact, it has never been to this extent before, and I'll tell you why in a second. But tonight it absolutely was. He needed to turn those corners to break down a very good Celtics defense and try to create those advantages, and he needed to shoot. I talked about this after the first Celtics game. Pacers had a lot of trouble getting all the way to the rim. They were getting into the paint, but not all the way to the basket. And Haliburton did a great job of that in this game, and that ignited not only him, but the rest of the pieces around him. All were able to have better games because of that pressure. Here's what made this game shine to me for Tyrese Haliburton. He has never scored like this, ever, in a game before. 31 points is awesome, right? He hasn't had that many 30-pointers this year. He was 1 for 6 from deep. That's not particularly good. In fact, that's the first time in his career he's made 1 or fewer threes and scored 31 points. It's only the 3rd time in his career he's made 1 or fewer threes and scored more than 25. The other 2 were the first day of 2024 against the Bucks, and his highest scoring game with 1 or fewer threes ever was October 21st, 2022. He scored 27 against the Spurs. He made 1 3, 8 twos, and 8 free throws on his way to 27. Today he had 31 because he made 10 twos, and the more important stat to show his rim pressure, 9 free throws. His shot chart and his shooting numbers will not adequately display how much rim impact he had because he drew fouls and took 9 free throws. Led the game in free throw attempts. Almost had half of Boston's free throw attempt total by himself. Well earned, and that's not a skill you think of with Tyrese Haliburton is drawing fouls, but it was in this game. And so that's one of the ways that you could point to say he has never had a game like that. He has never shot that poorly and still been an awesome offensive performer. No matter, I have another stat for you. I already mentioned it, but I didn't say the context of it. 10 two-point shots for Tyrese Haliburton in this game. Made. 10 two-point shots made. That's only the 2nd time in his career he's ever done that. Ever. 10 made twos. The other time was a game I mentioned earlier in Milwaukee on January 1st, 2024. He was 10 for 15 from 2-point range in that game on his way to 26 points. Tonight, 10 for 13. You could argue on volume, the best 2-point shooting game Tyrese Haliburton has ever had. Ever. That's what they needed. You can outshoot the Celtics, and the Pacers shot better from deep in this game, percentage-wise, although they took 31 fewer threes, which is insane. The math battle in this game was ridiculous. But they still dominated because of their paint attack. And Tyrese Haliburton was the face of it because of how unique it was for him. The Pacers as a team really built off of that. 66-48 was the points in the paint difference. That's 18 points. That's worth 6 threes. That makes up for basically almost all of the three-point battle. And it wasn't just Haliburton getting to the rim. A lot of guys finished well right on the basket. The Pacers shot chart is like exactly what the dream would be for a team playing the Boston Celtics. But that's not typically a Haliburton shot chart. I don't even mean that to say that he needs to be trying to do this every single game, right? But he had a plan tonight. And that's the second part of this that I want to get to. If you find a way, or you know how to look at shot charts from a game, maybe I can just tweet it to help everybody. Look at Tyrese Haliburton's from this game, and you will immediately notice something very interesting. He took a left slot three in this game. That was the only three he made. And he took a layup from just outside the charge circle on the left side, and he actually missed that. Every other shot he took in this game was either right at the rim or was on the right side of the basket. He was getting to his right, and that is when he is at his best. I will never forget being in Sacramento 2 years ago, and he didn't play very well in his return to the Golden One Center, and the Kings dominated, and they were booing Buddy Hield. And we go into the Kings locker room after the game, and Malik Monk is there, and one of the Kings reporters asked him, "Hey, what'd you guys do so well to slow down Tyrese?" He said, "Oh, we made him go left." And I thought, well, one, wow, what a blunt answer. And two, I'm going to remember that to look at how Tyrese Haliburton evolves in that way. And he's gotten much better going left, primarily as a passer, but as a scorer too. He has more tools to finish there, but he's still better going right. And the Pacers did a very good job in this game of using their resources, whether that was via screens, whether that was via Tyrese Haliburton attacks, whether that was with cutting, whether that was with slicing up some interesting zone concepts, whether that was who's guarding TJ McConnell and figuring it out from there, of getting Tyrese Haliburton going on that side of the floor. Of his 19 shot attempts, 16 on the right side of the hoop. And he played awesome. So altogether, a clear effort to get Haliburton to his spots. Him attacking the rim to an extreme that is very rare for him finishing those shots at the rim, and getting to the foul line, all led to an awesome Tyrese Haliburton game. One of the best he's had this season. The Pacers' second leading scorer had 17. Their balance was a key thing I want to talk about later. It's very low in my notes, but still a huge part of the story of the game. But I think seeing Haliburton attack that way just totally was the story of the game. And he really came alive in the second half. Right? Of those 31 points, I believe 18, I'll double check. Yes, 18 in the second half. And even more specifically, 6 in the fourth quarter with 2 made shots. And he came in and he was +8 and turned the game around when he checked back in after the game got tight in the fourth quarter. Like, they needed him to do that, especially in the third. That was an even quarter, but the Celtics made it close. He did everything timely and in a way the Pacers wanted. And then the follow-up from this is people said, well, wow. Great game, 19-9 the last time he was their leading scorer, both games against the Celtics. Why couldn't he have done that against the Thunder? And I get that, mostly because Derek Kramer and I talked about it for a long time. He did not play well against OKC. Duh. If the Celtics had Lou Dort and the Celtics had the most compact defense in the NBA and the Pacers were still scoring via Andrew Nembhard and Pascal Siakam, he would not have shot this much or with this style, right? Clearly, he needed to be better in that OKC game, but the context of that game and this game were totally different. And the context of this game was Tyrese Haliburton had the matchups that he could attack, had a favorable situation, had a game plan that could get him those shots, and he took advantage. It's up to the Pacers and Haliburton to continue to find those realities. It might not be possible against OKC, but that was a key difference. It's not just if he could do this every night, he would try to, or they would try to make it the case. But the fact that this is something he's capable of is obviously a big deal. And the fact that he did it against one of the best 3 teams, to me, maybe the best team in the NBA, right after the Pacers got smacked by that team by 37, awesome performance. One of his best games of the year, up there with that heroic game he had against New York, up there with that great game he had against New Orleans that they almost lost, up there with his performance in Philly, earlier this month. His 4th game over 30 points this season. Pacers are undefeated when he is over 30. He had exactly 30 in Toronto when they lost, so I can continue to use that stat to my advantage. But if I want to be even more specific and less random cutoffy, if Tyrese Haliburton scores over 22 points this season, the Pacers are 7-1. Seems pretty good to me. And if he goes over 20, which is still a nice, fun number, they are 9-2. They got to find ways to get him going, and they absolutely did in this game from a game plan perspective, from a Haliburton perspective, from where they were getting their shots from, and they took advantage. Awesome Haliburton game for a huge Pacers win.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $500, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, do live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And you can go ahead and take a look at the second round of the college football playoff. Despite having already beaten Ohio State, Oregon are 2.5-point underdogs against the Buckeyes in the Rose Bowl. Penn State heads into the Fiesta Bowl favored by 10.5 points over Heisman runner-up Ashton Jeanty and the Boise State Broncos. Both teams are a combined 10-0 in the Fiesta. Despite the larger line, this should be a good one. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Miami fought their way back quite literally to win a heated game in Houston.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast.
A wild ending to a very fun basketball game. The Heat come back from 12 points down in the third quarter, making the most of their run after Nikola Jovic entered the game. Jovic hits a huge three-pointer to go up 4 with 47 seconds left in this game. Then the Rockets melt down. Fred VanVleet gets ejected after arguing a 5-second call. Then a few seconds later, Amen Thompson, for no reason, seemingly throws Tyler Hero to the ground. And that turns into an all-out bench-clearing brawl. Amen Thompson, Jalen Green, Ime Udoka, Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, they're all ejected with 36 seconds left in the game. Heat go on to win 104-100. But what did you see with the fight, and why do you think that Tyler Hero even got ejected?
Well, my feeling is, and we were talking about this before we started recording, like they were already a little heated. The Heat had come back, obviously, and so tempers were starting to flare a little bit. You know that the Rockets are feisty. They're a good defensive team. They play with a chip on their shoulder because, you know, it's just the way they've been able to carve out their identity this season and for the last couple of seasons since Udoka took over as coach. And on the 5-second violation, it looked like Mark Davis, the chief referee, the head referee, might have jumped the gun just a tad on making that turnover call. And VanVleet was arguing, and he inadvertently brushes or kind of touches Davis in the shoulder. Next thing you know, that leads to the instant ejection. So I think they were already kind of pissed off about that. And then on the ensuing play, as you pointed out, you know, they're just jawing back and forth. Thompson and Hero are kind of talking there. Something must have been said. Like Hero must have said something. Like it was pretty evident that he was holding Hero in a way that Hero didn't want to be held. He was kind of pushing him off, and I guess he just said something that pissed Thompson off to a high degree. And Thompson just lost it. I don't think the last time I can recall seeing a player get flipped like that out of nowhere. And maybe that's just because Hero's on the smaller side or maybe a little bit lighter, but whatever it was, like I just haven't seen that in quite some time.
So Tyler is sort of in his chest. He's doing that thing that, you know, a lot of defenders will do where they kind of lower their body and they kind of put a shoulder into the stomach area as, you know, trying to kind of wall him off from wherever he's trying to go. And they kind of turning a little bit there. And then all of a sudden, like Amen Thompson gets Tyler Hero by the collar of his jersey, like a why I oughta kind of like, I don't know, like he's going to like throw him up against a wall somewhere. Right. And he's got him by the collar of his jersey. And then Tyler does say something.
Of course.
And then he just throws him, just flips him to the ground. And then you see Terry Rozier coming in full spear tackle from the sideline. He came in right away. Nikola Jovic gets in on it. And then the bench is clear and it's a whole brawl. And then my favorite part about it is that Tyler Hero is walking away, and him and Nico are like dapping up, walking away, like, we got him, like laughing about it. And Jalen Green is still heated. Ime Udoka is arguing vociferously with the refs. He gets ejected. Like, the Rockets are PO'd, and the Miami Heat are walking away laughing from the situation. And if you want to wonder if like the Miami Heat culture thing and the meanest, nastiest, dirtiest team stuff is fully dead, it's not fully dead. There's still that spark there because they were loving it. This was like the highlight of their night, not the win, the fact that they got into a fight.
Well, I don't know about that. I think they probably prefer the win, but the fact that they did get under their skin and were able to piss them off, and Tyler jawing at the crowd, just going at it, kind of loving the moment that they were able to get, Thompson ejected, that they were able to piss them off. Nico having just hit that big three. Like, there was certainly relishing in the moment, and the fact that they were able to come back and be able to, again, just take control of the game and wind up pissing off half the Rockets, or maybe all the Rockets roster in the process. It was pretty hilarious. I just, to see Hero kind of just clapping it up and just kind of like talking to the crowd, and God, I would pay for the opportunity to hear what it was.
There was a couple of fans sideline that he was talking to, and I would pay a lot of money to figure out what that conversation was. He ends up getting ejected weirdly. I don't know why he got ejected. I think it was just Mark Davis. Everybody that was just involved a little bit. We're getting rid of you. There's 30 seconds left in this game. Let's just, like, it doesn't matter. Let's just get rid of the hotter heads and just let the cool heads finish this game. I would be very surprised if Tyler Hero was suspended because of this. Although, because you're ejected, you automatically have to be reviewed for suspension and any further penalties. I'd be very surprised if he was going to miss Miami's next game Wednesday against the Pelicans at home. I would be very surprised if Amen Thompson was not suspended for multiple games after this. So we'll see what happens there. Here's the part that's really interesting to me, David.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler misses his 5th straight game with a quote-unquote stomach illness or whatever we're supposed to believe. This was the first fight of the Jimmy Butler era that didn't directly involve Jimmy Butler.
Is it?
I can't recall another one. I could be wrong, and if people listening, like, comment, let me know. Like, and I'm sorry if I'm forgetting something, but it feels like if Jimmy Butler isn't causing a lot of the fights,
Duncan and Jaylen Brown in the playoffs, right?
But Jimmy Butler was at least in the game.
Sure.
So so maybe directly involved wasn't the right way to phrase it, but like the first time that the Heat were in a fight and Jimmy Butler wasn't around, either directly involved in it or at least on the court or on the sideline in the game.
Yeah, that's fair.
The fact that they did this without Jimmy Butler too, who is sort of the guy who gets under guys' skin.
Yes,
I don't know what it means. There's some sort of connection that we can make between, like, is the Jimmy Butler era over because the Miami Heat are like, I don't want to go so far as to stretch it that way, but it is interesting.
I like it. I'll be happy to see it when Bam is somebody who does this, because Bam is just like everybody's friend. Like, and he's just, and some fans have criticized him for it. I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but he's really, really calm out there. Yeah, he'll talk and everything else like that, but he gets along with so many dudes around the league that he's just not the type to ever really get under your skin. For all the fans in New York and Boston and everywhere else that complain about the illegal screens and he's the dirtiest player in the league, etc. Like, the fans might think so. Players love Bam. Rarely do we see anybody try to challenge Bam or attack him or anything like that, because he's an eminently likable fellow. But when Bam starts doing those kind of Jimmy-like tactics of like pissing people off and getting your skin and just going to that point and maybe even crossing that line that you're not supposed to cross, which is what I think Tyler did, is he probably just said something to Thompson that just crossed the line. That's when I'd be like, okay, the culture's okay. Like, they're in good hands, because that's, for all the other things that he does well in terms of being the keeper of the culture, like, for him to be able to just adopt that sort of just dirty to the point of like it pisses people off mentality, that would be another level altogether. But you know what?
Dwayne Wade was never like that, though, right? Like, the star isn't really.
But again,
Jimmy Butler's the first star who's also the instigator. Like, that's sort of that's a realm sort of for the Dylan Brookses and the Jose Alvarados of the world. Like, not really your star player. You don't see LeBron James doing this stuff. It's Lance Stevenson blowing in LeBron's ear, not vice versa.
Right.
So I'm okay with Bam not necessarily being it. It is surprising that Tyler Hero is doing it. That is very surprising. But there is sort of an era of like annoying kid in the pickup game who you can't figure out why he has the most points on the court.
Yeah.
But he knows why, and he's letting you know that he has all the points.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there is an annoying kind of aspect to Tyler Hero for sure. And I mean that in the greatest compliment possible, because he's, 6'4" guy who's just shooting threes, and he's like, wait, he got to the rim again, and now he's drawing fouls, and he's like all up in your grill when he's feeling it. And I'm here for it. If he's trash talking like that, I'm here for it.
He does. He talks like, like he hits that that fade away, and he kind of runs back, and he's like letting guys, it's gonna be that kind of night, or etc. I'm
he's got the scowl and like that, and I think what really pisses opponents off is when he starts laughing and smiling.
Oh yeah, but we've seen it before when he gets that, like when you see somebody get a technical and he starts clapping at them, etc. Like that kind of stuff is just it's little kid annoying, but it's so much fun to watch. To be 100% honest with you, so it was great. Really good win to the point I made earlier. I think it was one of Miami's best wins of the season, because not only did they come back, but shorthanded as they were without Duncan Robinson and Jimmy in the lineup. So they're down 2 starters. They have to kind of piece together the starting lineup with Kevin Love in there. It didn't really work, but they were able to come back. They were down double digits in the second half, and they were able to just go on a nice run in the fourth quarter. And again, the cherry on top was pissing off the Rockets roster to the degree that they did, but they played a great brand of basketball, like great defense, great offense where they needed it most, and some key contributions I know we'll talk about in the next segment.
The Heat have won 3 of their last 4 games, 3-2 without Jimmy Butler in those last 5 games. I agree with you. Based on the opponent, the circumstances, again, no Jimmy Butler, second night of back-to-back on the road against the 3rd seed in the Western Conference, a very good Houston Rockets team that was complete. You could argue that this was Miami's best win of the season. I think it would probably be this one and the Cleveland Cavaliers one from earlier in the year.
Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
We've got ourselves a trade.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast.
The Lakers have traded D'Angelo Russell, Maxwell Lewis, and 3 second-round picks to the Brooklyn Nets for Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton. And I just said, you know what? I'll find Brian later. Like, this cannot wait. Let's get on this right now. And it's coming at a time when the Lakers are playing very well. It is on the heels of a 132-122 win over the Sacramento Kings Saturday, despite LeBron not playing in the game. He was sick. And going to look more into some of the particulars of this trade, try to track down people like Adam Armbrecht from Locked On Nets to get a better idea game in, game out of how DFS, who has certainly been very linked to the Lakers, not just this season, but over the last couple years, and Shake Milton to whatever degree he really matters in this trade. It's really a trade about Dorian Finney-Smith, in my opinion, how they've looked. But my instant reaction is I like it. First of all, it is a trade that makes a lot of sense. Dorian Finney-Smith, who again is the primary piece of this trade for the Lakers, he is, I don't know if he is quite a 3-and-D wing defender in the sense that he has spent more time of late guarding 4s as much, if not a little bit more than 3s. He is 31 years old. He's starting to get at that age where you may start guarding up a little bit more in terms of assignments just because of the mobility question. But he is still a guy that you can put on perimeter scores. Either way, he is somebody that's always been known for being able to play good defense. He is shooting a career best 43.5% from behind the arc this season on really good volume, almost 5.5 per game. He's averaging 10.4 points per game. He is scoring in general very efficiently this year, a little bit under 46% from the field. So this is a guy that is supplying some scoring punch for the Lakers, scoring of all things, considering how the expectations of this season has been an issue for the Lakers. And I would think that if nothing else, the times that DFS plays alongside LeBron, he's going to be getting better looks set up for him than anything he was having in Brooklyn this year. And he is somebody that has been linked to the Lakers, like I said, for a couple seasons now. And if he is, as I suspect, the primary piece of this trade for the Lakers, that is a fair price for him. D'Angelo Russell had always been one of the guys linked to him as far as the salary that you would use to match. And just like they talked about on True Detective, I guess the NBA is a flat circle as well, because D'Angelo Russell began his career as a Laker and then was traded to the Nets several years ago in the deal that landed Brook Lopez and I believe the pick that turned into either Kyle Kuzma or Josh Hart, one or the other. And we now have D'Angelo Russell's second tour of duty with the Lakers, and he is traded yet again to the Brooklyn Nets. Going to sit in this a little bit more, just thinking about the particulars of this deal. But my guess is Dorian Finney-Smith will come off the bench for the Lakers. I suspect that JJ Redick will look to keep this same starting lineup. Max Christie has been playing very well as that wing defending specialist for the Lakers. Like, that's his primary assignment. I think he can also have a better ability to guard guards and, the Ja Morants of the world, the De'Aaron Foxes of the world, than you would have with Dorian Finney-Smith. And unless you just want to move Rui to the bench to have more of a pure scorer that's more established coming off the bench than, say, Dalton Connect, I suspect they're going to have DFS playing off the bench and playing a pretty significant role off the bench, where you've got your 5 starters that are established, and then the bench is Gabe Vincent, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, and center X, whether Christian Coloco for now, Jackson Hayes hopefully on the verge of returning, or who knows, there could be more moves on the horizon, because as Bobby Marks from ESPN points out, this trade doesn't just help the Lakers in terms of the player that they get in Dorian Finney-Smith and shoring up the wings in general, which has been the biggest weakness of this roster construction. And it also gives you more balance. Like, Dorian Finney-Smith is now at worst the third best. I don't count LeBron in this equation, just because LeBron may have to pace himself more than we've seen over these last several games, where he really has been a two-way player. But Dorian Finney-Smith, if nothing else, becomes one of the premier two-way guys on this roster. Bobby Marks from ESPN, Cap Guru, points out that they're also getting some flexibility below the second apron. They were just $30,000 below the second apron. They are now $3.5 million, and they've also got some salary flexibility moving forward as well, because not only was D'Angelo Russell an expiring contract, Dorian Finney-Smith has a player option next season for, I believe it's about 15 millish, that he may decline, and then the Lakers can decide whether or not they want to keep him long term. But also Shake Milton, he has 2 more years under contract, but neither of them are guaranteed. So in theory, the Lakers gain, depending on what Finney-Smith opts to do, but they could be gaining some future flexibility. They're definitely gaining some current, because they're now $3.5 million below that second apron. So that gives them a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to moves that could be coming down the pike. I think the biggest question that comes from this trade, beyond just how does Finney-Smith play and how does Dorian Finney-Smith play, how much does Shake Milton play at all? I'm not sure he's going to be in the rotation moving forward. I think some of it will depend on how well Dalton Connect plays, because Shake Milton is really a scoring first guard. And if Dalton Connect plays more like he has in the last couple games, I think the tie is going to go to the guy that is actually part of the Lakers' future. But if Dalton Knecht goes back to being kind of an up and down scorer, particularly a guy that struggles on the road, that could create some opportunities for Shake Milton, who really is more of a scoring first guard. But I think the biggest question moving forward is going to be ball handling and facilitating, because that's not really what Dorian Finney-Smith does at all. It's not really what Shake Milton does at all. So, and when you lose D'Angelo Russell, you lose some scoring, obviously, but Dorian Finney-Smith has been scoring well, and that is what Shake Milton does if you need him. And DFS is not the same scoring threat in the sense of D'Lo being a guy that can go on heaters. I mean, like, Dorian Finney-Smith is not a heaters guy, whereas we've seen as up and down as D'Angelo Russell can be, when he's got it going, he can really get it going. It just, frankly, hasn't happened as much this season. But where I think D'Lo is going to be missed the most is as a facilitator, and it's going to put more ball handling responsibility on, obviously, LeBron, on Austin Reeves. And I have been on record many times with my skepticism about Austin Reeves' ability to be a true full-time point guard. Like, that's his primary responsibility. And I recognize this is coming off the last 2 games. Austin Reeves has 26 assists against 8 turnovers. And in the month of December, other than the debacle against Detroit, he has not had a game with fewer than 5 assists. So look, he has been playing very well along those lines, and I will be more than happy to be wrong if I am. You don't even need to throw it in my face. I will be thrilled to be wrong, but I need to see more of it. Particularly, I need to see more of it against more disruptive, bigger, athletic defenses. But Austin has been doing a good job picking up the type of slack that will be necessary with D'Angelo Russell no longer there. D'Lo has been, for all of his faults, one of, you could argue, the cleanest facilitator on this team for the whole season when it comes to setting up guys without turning over the ball. D'Lo had been effective, but also clean. So they're going to have to replace that, and it's going to put more responsibilities on LeBron. It's going to put more on Austin Reeves. It'll put more on Gabe Vincent. And, Gabe has played well for the most part over the last few weeks. He is not a true facilitator in the way that D'Angelo Russell is, but he is going to have to step up that part of his game more. If nothing else, just the ability to keep guys organized. That's going to be something on Gabe Vincent's plate for however long he's on this team, because this may be the precursor to another move. And if there's more down the pike, which I imagine Laker fans are hoping for, excited for, Gabe Vincent could very well be a part of that. But either way, I like this for the Lakers. I like that they are making an investment with LeBron and Anthony Davis. We talked about this on a recent show. I'm not saying that they have to go all in for the sake of going all in. I'm not even saying that they have to go all in. What I want them to do is pick a lane and to be serious about doing something of substance with LeBron and Anthony Davis if you're going to have them on the roster at all.